What's up, Taiwan? I'm Eric Gao with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. After a 5-day drill near the Sea of Japan, China and Russia have turned their attention to the wider Asia-Pacific, where they have begun joint patrols. Alan Liu has more.
China and Russia are boosting their military cooperation. The two have begun carrying out joint maritime patrols in the Asia-Pacific. The Russian Pacific Fleet's press service announced the patrols on Wednesday. Analysts say these kind of activities have several key benefits.
海上的联合巡航呢，通常都是针对未来它可能要作战的环境或者是区域来进行巡航。一方面可以熟悉这个航道，另外一方面也可以展现两个国家的海上联合作战能力。
Before the patrols began, the two navies held a 5-day joint exercise in the Sea of Japan, also known as the EC. That included artillery practice, anti-submarine and air defense training, and improving joint search and rescue at sea. It was also the first time a Chinese submarine took part in the drills. China says they were for defensive purposes and not aimed at any other country.
这是中俄两军年度合作计划内安排，不针对第三方，与当前国际和地区局势无关。
But analysts say both the drills and the patrols are part of China's gray zone efforts and could signify something more serious.
我们不应该去忽略，未来在台海冲突或者东海冲突，中共跟俄罗斯合作的可能性。但是俄罗斯可能扮演这种后勤啦，或者是辅助性的角色。
The region has seen a surge in military activity this summer. In July, Taiwan hosted its largest ever annual military drills. The US and Australia also carried out a massive joint exercise known as Talisman Sabre. And while China and Russia were holding their naval drills earlier this month, India and Philippines carried out their own 2-day exercise in the disputed South China Sea. This all comes as China continues to turn the screws on Taiwan, ramping up gray zone efforts around the country. On Thursday, Taiwan saw a spike in Chinese military activity nearby. It spotted 47 aircraft operating in the area. 32 of those entered Taiwan's air defense identification zone, an area that serves as a buffer zone but is not its sovereign airspace. China said the activity was part of a joint combat readiness patrol. Taiwan, now used to these incursions as a near-daily occurrence, says it closely monitored the situation and responded accordingly. Chris Ma and Alan Liu for TaiwanPlus.
Singapore will soon celebrate its 60th National Day. Our reporter Isabel Wong is in the city-state to look at how it's preparing for the celebration and to explore how Taiwan-Singapore ties are evolving with a shifting global order.
Singapore, commonly known as the Lion City, is celebrating its 60th birthday after separating from Malaysia in 1965. Although it is 50 times smaller than Taiwan, Singapore has risen from a resource-poor nation to a world-leading financial hub. The city-state remains robust on official ties with Taiwan while maintaining good relations with China. Taiwan's representative to Singapore, Tong Zhenyuan, says economic ties between the two sides remain strong and steady.
Last year, Taiwan is Singapore's fourth largest trading partner, and Singapore was Taiwan's sixth largest trading partner. Even last year's global economy has not been very well, but our trade, particularly our exports to Singapore, has been increased by 13.5%.
Singapore has been known for finding a strategic balance between the US and China. But experts warn that a shift in the global trading system is happening because the US is reshaping how it engages with the rest of the world.
The U.S. is fundamentally changing its economic relationship with the entire world. It's not just about China or Taiwan or even Asia, it's the whole world. They're rejecting existing international norms, they're rejecting multilateral arrangements focused on reciprocal bilateral agreements based on reciprocity. There's no longer a distinction between developing economies and developed economies.
Despite ongoing global uncertainties, Singapore is looking to expand this year's National Day celebrations from the historic Padang to the Marina Bay area to mark its Diamond Jubilee. Stay tuned for more stories on how the nation covered this special day. Howard Zhang, Andy Xue, and Isabel Wang in Singapore for TaiwanPlus.
What do EV batteries, stainless steel, and solar panels have in common? They all require nickel, a raw material largely sourced from Indonesia. But while it's a key part of the green energy transition, mining it can be harmful to the local environment and to workers' health. NGOs from Indonesia and Taiwan are joining forces to bring awareness to this issue and to some Taiwanese companies' involvement in this industry. Tifty Wang reports.
39-year-old Johan Sapara has been working at Morowali Industrial Park, Indonesia's largest nickel processing site, for 4 years. The raw material, called nickel pig iron, is an essential component for stainless steel and now EV batteries. But it's hard work that also exposes workers to harmful pollutants and extreme temperatures. Over the years, Sapara says he's seen hundreds of workers get sick. There was even a deadly accident at his workplace, the Indonesian subsidiary of Taiwanese wire and cable manufacturer Huaxin Lihua. Now he's come to the headquarters in Taipei to call for change.
This is an upscale company, so it should also have top-grade safety measures, including a more advanced public safety setup.
No dirty mining.
Sapara is part of a group of advocates from Indonesia visiting Taipei to call attention to problems in Indonesia's nickel industry. Huaxin Lihua says the company follows corporate sustainability practices and found inconsistencies in reports from NGOs. But besides worker safety, there are environmental concerns too. Indonesia has the world's largest nickel reserves, and industrial parks there are projected to account for 62% of global production by 2030. They also happen to be in some of the most biodiverse places in the world. And as demand for green energy continues to grow, so do the impacts of resource extraction and production.
If we want to transition to green energy, it's useless because the supply chain is created at the cost of hurting human rights and biodiversity.
While in Taiwan, these advocates spoke with representatives from Taiwan's government and Taiwanese companies operating in the nickel industry, urging them to update their practices. Taiwan's economy ministry appears receptive to the demands, but representatives say change could take time.
那目前的话，因为要考量我们企业的适应能力哈，还有国际上它供应链变化，它需要一些调试的时间。我们目前是先用鼓励的方法，请他们做完以后，放到那个永续报告里面来呈现哈，那逐步的来推动落实。
Taiwanese operations are a minority in these industrial parks in Indonesia, largely dominated by Chinese ventures. But advocates say better practices from Taiwanese firms and more oversight by overseas investment bureaus can still make a difference in the industry. They've already seen some European companies cancel investments in the parks after weighing environmental costs.
We hope that international investment do not rely on the low standard of the Indonesia regulation on protection of workers' safety and health problem.
With demand for nickel not going anywhere, these advocates will have a lot more work ahead of them as they speak up for the health and safety of their communities and try to shift global regulations. Joseph Wu, Scott Huang, and Tiffany Wang in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
And thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we leave you with images of 4 Barbary lion cubs playing at a Czech zoo. This species is extinct in the wild, and these cubs are part of efforts to preserve the big cats. I'm Eric Gao. Take care. See you next time.
Game on Taiwan, where we bring you not just the highlights on the field, but also the voices and stories behind the scenes.
其实恰哥是很懂得会去运用这些东西，他知道要看哪些资料，去看选手表现的怎么样，然后看数据上有没有什么优势弱势的东西，再去提醒他们
A salute to every sports hero working hard, whether under the spotlight or behind the curtain. Game on, Taiwan.